Sorry about that. There was a notice that appeared on the screen about managing moderators that I'd never seen, and YouTube chose to put that ginormous announcement up just as the live went live. So apologies for the empty air there. Welcome. My name is Kurt. This is my Good Life meditation for January 20th, 2026. This is a live video broadcast that I do every morning at 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which I've spent my life developing and which I've cataloged in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use this time to review the last 24 hours, how I did with the challenges and the opportunities that I met that are noteworthy, to see where I did well or where I did poorly so that I can learn from those circumstances. I also go over my creed, all 8 objectives, and then one of the principles, and I prepare for the coming day. I do respond to comments, but not until I'm done. So I'll read and respond to all comments at the end. That's just so that I can keep the flow of my stream of consciousness here going. I do talk about sensitive subjects sometimes. The most notable being and the most problematic for some people is the concept of death, which comes up every day in my videos. Although lately I haven't been getting many cards and letters, so I guess I'm treating that sensitive subject in in a less shocking way than sometimes before in the past. So that's good. Or maybe folks are simply getting used to the fact that preparing for my own death is an important part of my life. With that, before I get started, I want to say a huge thank you to my YouTube members and my Patreon supporters, from whose largesse I am able to have my website, goingalone.org, where anyone can read Going Alone for free, including the Creed. That's really due to the support of my people who support me, and I really do appreciate all of you for that. Also, especially given that I've been rather remiss in providing any content beyond these daily uploads and maybe a particular garden video once in a while, and for the last couple of months while I continue my ongoing effort to find my footing in retirement. All right, let's continue. I've got the greeting disclaimer and welcome part done. Let's go over the last 24 hours. So I have some single note here. It's rather long, a string of words saying, here we go. Let's do it. The string of words says, powerful, strong, solid day of retirement. I would have to say that yesterday felt like the first real day of being retired, with real in quotation marks. That's because, and been almost exactly, well, let's say it would have been January. It's been 13 and a half months since I formally retired. I retired on December 6th, 2024. So I've been retired for just over 13, almost 13 and a half months. And the first, without repeating myself from past days, Good Life meditations, you might already know the arc that I experienced. Being retired was wonderful for about a month or two, and then it became curious and an interesting, like a guest that stayed too long, as leading into that, and then it became a downright dilemma. Going into the 3/4 of a year mark and then the 1 year mark, and I've been struggling to get my footing. Well, then, of course, then the horror show in America arrived, which completely distracted me as I went back to America and attended to all of that. I really didn't have a chance. But now that I'm at a chance to address finding my footing in retirement, now I'm back in Japan. The horror show continues, but it's not front and center is the way it has been for the last since was it October when the horror show began. It's not as it's still a daily thing, but and it's going to get worse. But it's not. I have time to refine myself, and I did a couple of things to try to. Well, I've done a lot of things to try to deal with the basically finding my footing in my new life, including philosophy and practical exercises. On the philosophy front, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to live well and coming to some strong observations and conclusions that I have set up before myself, an inertia of productivity all of my life. Since I was a student, since my student days, since I was a child, basically, my whole life has been defined by the production of whether test scores, of certificates and degrees during my school years, and then once I became an employee, by the production of good output on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. When I became a project manager, by the production of good quality projects that met my customers' needs. As a leader of project teams, um, the good leadership qualities that I was able to learn about, to develop, and then execute on a daily basis as a project manager, as a father, the production of good fatherly ends, whether it's the support of my family, and as a husband, whether supporting my family, being a good husband, being a good father who provides and then delivers the outcome of a grown child able to take care of herself and live in society and be well-rounded and a good member of our community at large. Retirement offered really doesn't offer that type of thing. I mean, sure, you can put into place things that yield those ends, but the things that I was putting into place, the production of a beautiful garden, the production of a nice walk of several walks through the day with my wife or alone with when I take walks on my own, the production of some videos on YouTube. These things weren't the same. Because no one was demanding anything of me. There were no consequences necessarily for my failure. The garden would carry on its own with or without me. My wife and I will walk one way or another. There's really no measure of quality relative to that. The YouTube videos, well, I could take or leave them, as illustrated by the my retiring in Japan video series, which ran its course and came to an end. So philosophically, I've been turning to the books behind me in the last half year, looking through them, trying to find places and values, including those which are codified in my own book, that I could apply. And I decided that the first course of action was to. This is what I began trying to do as of the late, as of early winter, was to basically reintroduce structure, reintroduce things into my life that would yield the same results as work and raising a child. And so I've got not just one job, but two jobs. And I'm currently engaged in doing those jobs on a very part-time basis, which have yielded good ends. Having my job, and in fact, this morning before I even turned this on, I'm teaching today. I was writing up my lesson plans, which felt great. I love it. I love it. I've got my two little notebooks here. I've got my a special bag just for work, which I love having. I love having it sit there all day, and I can see that. I've got my two notebooks for my two classes, and I was writing my lesson plans. I spent the morning doing before this, turning the camera on, doing that. I feel great. Maybe you can see it, the energy in my voice, the enthusiasm, the excitement. This is the old me that's back. This is how I am by all of my life. I've always been a very high energy, high enthusiasm, high productivity, output, throughput, energy, just you know, leader um, in my job. And I feel that way now because I just spent half an hour before turning the camera on writing up my lesson plans for today. And it shows. I mean, this is just me. And for right or wrong, it is who I am by virtue of 40 plus years of training and preparation as a worker bee. So that was the first way I dealt with it, by in reintroducing systems into my life, namely work, that would allow me to be that man again. And I'm very happy to be that man again. I'm really happy about my job. Getting the job was a very good decision, at least so far. And I will take this on a year by year basis. So I'll do this job all through 2026, and then I'll reevaluate whether how much or how little or if at all that if I want to do it in 2027. We'll see. So that was the first thing. The second thing I did was more on the philosophical front, was the examination of how I am living my life on a day to day basis, on a moment to moment basis, how I'm engaging with the world so that I can change the way I do things that yield less work like results. Namely, not by pushing myself to enjoy life in a non results way. I think I mentioned yesterday, I'm writing poems, and I know might sound insignificant, but it's proven to be a very useful tool that I'm using throughout the day, at least 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, writing poems throughout the day in my mind, in the moment, without writing them down, without speaking them aloud. I let the poem form in my head. It sits there. I look at it for a little bit, almost like a butterfly flitting through the sunlight in my bamboo forest, here for a moment and then gone. Likewise, I've been taking into appreciation various vignettes that I see throughout the day without lifting the camera to take a photo, without sharing on social media, none of that. And this little exercise alone, engaging myself in the moment, especially the poetry writing, the impromptu poetry writing, has really had a significant impact on me in just the last few days, where I feel like I'm living rather than pursuing ends. Now, maybe for others, that activity comes more naturally. I don't know. Maybe for some people, some retirement people, they don't do it at all. I don't know. Maybe some retired people, like my wife, she's not writing poetry. She's not, well, I would say she's doing the vignette thing for sure. But Yumiko just is having fun in retirement. I mean, just that woman she was built to be retired. She's just enjoying her days with her little dog and her routines, and finding fun things to do throughout the day. And I'm not quite like that. I need a little bit of a crutch and help along the way. So, wrapping up, yesterday's note was yesterday was a powerful, strong, solid day of retirement. I would have to say that yesterday might have been the very first day that really looked like the retirement that I think I can settle into. I spent 2 hours in addition to my normal routine of this, then morning exercise with my neighbors, a dog walk with my wife, a lovely breakfast. I then spent 2 hours working in the garden, splitting bamboo in the forest to thin out the bamboo to let more light come through. I then had a lovely lunch with my wife and my father in law. And then in the afternoon, after another dog walk under beautiful sunlight, I then took Rudy out for a 2.5 mile stroll in his dog stroller, followed by in the evening by a lovely dinner and another dog walk. And I interspersed some lovely bits and pieces of reading throughout the day, reading more Moby Dick. Of course, I read the Bible. I was reading some of my philosophy books. I read a book about 15th century, stories of 15th century poverty in Spain. It was really interesting. That's exactly what happened yesterday and I played the guitar. What happened yesterday is exactly what I would imagine being retirement being like. So yeah, it was a good day. Now, I'm not here just to recount the good days. I'm here to recount the challenges, but I really wasn't challenged by anything yesterday. So I can't really say that I can do that. If I'm just making yesterday a positive day, then that's just because that's all the day yielded, thankfully. Okay, my creed, it consists of 8 objectives and 35 principles. The 8 objectives are as follows. Number one, most important is to be at all times ready for death. This means my paperwork and my documents and my bank accounts and my finances, my taxes, and the records that I have of all of this stuff need to be in order. Namely, our financial house needs to be in order, and I need to make sure that all the records are where my wife can have access to them. So if I keel over suddenly with a heart attack, she knows that they're in the shelf over there. She can access all the documents, and she's good to go. She has the passwords to all the accounts. It's all written down. My wife will be cared for the rest of her life. That's a great sense of peace and well-being, knowing that my wife is will not be in any financial danger for the rest of her life. It gives me a lot of peace. So, house in order, financial house in order, my affairs are in order. My relationships need to be sound. I want to make sure that I don't have anybody that I have any sour words with that I need to fix, and I don't. And the third item is that my life's work needs to be complete. And at age 60, almost 62, my life's work consisted of being a good husband and father, raising my daughter successfully to adulthood, and experiencing life in a unique and novel and interesting way, ironic maybe, and writing it down in a book. And I did both of those things. So my life's work is complete, my affairs are in order, and my relationships are sound. That means I am ready for death at any moment. And that's a significant thing, being ready for death at all times. It means that I can compose a poem in my mind without any distractions of things that, Kurt, there's better things you should be doing. You should be attending to your affairs. I don't need to. Affairs are all in order. Second objective is to make good and effective use of my time, just like I did yesterday. Yesterday was a model example of the good use of time. And I'm doing that. Three is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, which are precisely the 8 objectives and principles outlined in Going Alone. So that's 1, 2, and 3. The first 3 objectives are in good shape. My fourth objective is to cultivate good emotional reactions so that I've developed myself into a human being who responds very well when things get hard. And it's been a long, long time since anything has ambushed me and I've flown off the handle or, responded in a way that was untowards towards the ends that I seek for myself to achieve, namely good self-control. Number 5 is to perform good actions relative to the values in my book. It means that I need to be living, walking the, the, the talk in my book. And I strive to do that every day. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities, so I know how far my reach can extend. I know what I can't attend to or achieve, and what I can, so that my application of time and effort is applied in a good and reasonable way. The 7th objective is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully, which is, I'm so well practiced at that now that it's second nature. I don't even really need to think about it anymore. It's really hard for anything to cause me to rush or get upset anymore. And objective number 8 is to achieve a state of balance in both body and mind, which is attained by virtue of attendance to and pursuit of the first 7 objectives. Those are my 8 objectives. Now, if it sounds like I just gave myself a lot of pats on the back, so be it. This is a journal entry. So, one of the things I do is I'm honest with myself here. If I'm falling down or failing in any of my objectives, will be first to attempt to spot and report that. If I'm doing well, as I seem to be doing well now after many, many years of practice, first the effort of uh, collecting and describing the values that I choose to live by, my own personal creed, and then spending year after year on a daily basis living to attend to and live according to that, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I find myself giving myself a very good report card at this particular junction on January 20th, 2026, that I'm doing well with regard to my values. Yeah. So I will continue to work hard to make sure that that's the case. I always like to read one of the objectives or principles. I do that every day. I move forward one by one on each of these. Today, I'm going to read the principle I think it's number 4, titled "The Home of Good and Evil." Hold on, let me go ahead and move this candle over and then lift the book up. There we go. Put that right here. Now, The Home of Good and Evil on page 254 of the hardbound edition of Going Alone was specifically, I put all the principles and objectives in their order for specific reasons. It falls immediately, it's principle number 5, that is, and it falls immediately after the Homunculus and Anchorhold, which, if you've watched these videos for the last 2 days, I expounded on each of those, explaining that the Homunculus is the little mortal that lives within my head. The Anchorhold is a suggestion that mortality is trapped within my brain and will die with me on a wholesale basis once my body ceases to work. And the home of good and evil then takes into consideration the fact of the homunculus and the Anchorhold to remind myself that good and evil reside within my mind, within my characterizations of what is valuable and good in life, and they don't exist out there amongst the stars. No codified 10 Commandments on a chiseled tablets anywhere. Good and evil are opinions. They're ideas, no absolutes, in fact, but simply ideas that we formulate and maintain in our minds. This is why it's so important to apply reason and and work to develop our maturity so that we can do a better job at apprehending what's happening around us and revising, if necessary, our values accordingly. It's a messy thing. It's a messy proposal to say that good and evil are subjective, but but it is also very liberating as it makes these malleable and formable ideas that we can then adjust as results vary. Let's go ahead and read The Home of Good and Evil, and it opens with a quote from Aristotle: "Activity in accordance with virtue is virtue." The Home of Good and Evil. A catalogue of right and wrong maintained by that little mortal within my head, continuing, containing both opinion and judgment, and suggestive of a platform of subjective responsibility. I kind of messed that up. Let me try that again. The Home of Good and Evil. A catalogue of right and wrong maintained by that little mortal within my head, containing both opinion and judgment, and suggestive of a platform of subjective responsibility. Subjective being the key word. The homunculus owns this list and has the responsibility to develop and vet its contents, as well as reconcile these with the reasoned opinion of others. Good and evil then become perspective and opinion, dangerously subjective, yet also subject to the truth finding powers of reason, honesty, and objectivity. There's the rub, right? There's both the benefit and the boon and the challenge. Argument and discussion are the tools of reconciliation when such opinions differ, and consensus reached in this way has more authority and force than the proclamations and commandments of 1,000 fictitious gods. It's hard work taking responsibility for good and evil and right and wrong, or at least for our identification of these, and not just to accept these as handed down from on high, or as delivered through authority or tradition, or, heaven forbid, dogma alone. It's hard work to do it ourselves, but it's worthwhile work. It's a good end to take the time to be responsible for our own identification of what constitutes truth. All right, the next 24 hours. Well, today's a work day. Yes, I love it. I love that. But I also love the fact that I only have two 45-minute lessons. I'll show up at my first class will start at 9:20. By 11 o'clock, by 11 a.m., I will be out the door and on my way out for a fun day downtown. So after I'm done with school this morning, after teaching my two lessons, I'll adjourn. I'll be in downtown Shizuoka. I'll wander around. I'll find a nice restaurant somewhere and treat myself to whatever I want for lunch. And then I'm going to go birthday shopping for my daughter's boyfriend. I already know what I want to get him, so I'll go shopping for that so I can put that in the mail to him later this week. That's it for my plans for today. Let's go ahead and read comments, but let me have a sip of my coffee first. As if I need any more stimulation, caffeine. Good morning, April. April says, I'm just going to listen today. I need to try to motivate myself and get some cleaning and purging done. It's always a good thing to find self motivation and get good things done. Wishing you all the best. Hello, Tim. Tim reports good morning. Weather check for the UK at 8:34 p.m. is 9.1 C. Woo, it's warm and 99% humidity. A foggy, damp, dismal day. Currently raining heavily. The rain is back. Wow. Tim, looks like the thermometer fell over outside. I can't tell. Hello, Robert. Robert says hello to myself in April and notes that it's currently negative. Hold on. Robert notes the weather as negative 5 degrees Celsius and 80% humidity with an air quality index of 33 and snowing in Napanee, Ontario, Canada. Sounds very Canadian. Robert says hello to Tim. Tim says hi to Robert and Udatsu, aka April. Elvina, hello, Elvina. Good morning to you. Robert says hello to Elvina. Tim says hi to Elvina. Elvina says hello to Robert, Tim, and April, aka Udatsu Adventures. Tim says, I found retirement isn't a magic thing. Like anything, you kind of have to work at it to enjoy it and make something of it, which sounds kind of counterproductive, but the important element is you're doing it for you. Indeed. You know what else, Tim? I would love to get your thoughts on this as too. I'm finding that whatever inertia we go into retirement with, whatever qualities of character, of mind, of whether we are curious and inquisitive, willing to forge into new territories, or whether we're kind of like insular and living within whatever world we created, whatever inertia we enter retirement we have, that is going to kind of define the scope and extent of what we can possibly do. I mean, sure, people can make changes, but we rarely do. And I'm finding myself grateful that I've spent my life as a curious person, so that I can begin to forge beyond the frontiers of the life that I've lived most of my life. I worried that if I hadn't been that way, if I'd been a more of an insular person, like I said, that I may be just simply stuck with whatever I was. Although maybe in the same way, maybe that's a blessing too. Like Yumiko, who's, I would say, is more insular. She's just kind of folded into a life, an inner life that she seems to enjoy greatly. Lots to think about there. Uh, Elvina says, it's very cold here in Mimico today. -6 degrees Celsius feels like -17. Wow, that feels very cold. Windy with gusts of snow coming off the Great Lakes. Don't they call that the Great Lake effect or the lake effect? Isn't that this? Isn't there sometimes in the Great Lakes area a particular type of a snowfall that comes as a result of wind passing over the lake? So it would occur on the what would be the lee side or the windward side? Is that the right word? But anyway, I heard about that lake effect snow. Is that what you're feeling? Is that what you're experiencing, Novina? Tim says, great thing in retirement, as you're finding out, is you can do a whole range of different activities throughout the day, which might not have been the case in a full time job, which I find the most liberating aspect. I would say that yes, I am definitely discovering that, Tim. And yesterday was a true example of that. Everything from I was reading, I was playing the guitar, I was gardening, I was walking. I walked the dog in the afternoon. I walked 4 miles with the dog in the afternoon, plus philosophizing. I spent a good deal of time with that red book right there, from this Seneca, the Notes of Seneca. Just simple philosophizing throughout the day, and I had so much fun. Elvina says, my husband retired about 12 years ago, has been busy around our home and working with and for many of his friends with projects. Retirement for him has been a new career. That's an interesting way to look at it. Good for him too. That your husband seems to have found so many good and useful things, good utilities to do in his life. That would be a role model for me. Your husband, that is. Tim says, I would say so, yes. I'm concentrating on activities and hobbies I did pre retirement, but expanding on them, especially antique auctions, as have been as have more time now in retirement. Oh, I didn't know you were into antiques, Tim. How did I not know that? You and I share that interest. How interesting. Japan Mon Amour, very good to see you. I missed the stream, darn it. Hello from a very cold, snowy Greece, -9 degrees Celsius. Well, I'm glad you're here now. We're not quite done. Yeah, you missed the other part, but at least the comments part is for me one of the most fun. And how cool! Another cold and snowy day in Greece. Look at that, Tim. All the way down in Greece, it's cold and snowy too. And Elvina says the lake effect snow squalls are often bad, especially driving on roads and highways here in southern Ontario. I wonder why that is. Why is it that the lake effect snow could be more? Is it a different type of snow? Tim says, I probably play it too safe in retirement. In other words, staying in a certain comfort zone. Easy life in some ways, I guess. Isn't that your prerogative, though? Elvina says, have a great day, everyone. Time for me to get moving. Good luck with your day, Elvina. I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. April says, I'm worried about what I'll be doing in Japan. Maybe I will look into English teaching after all, since you seem to like it. I really do. I don't think I would be enjoying teaching kids. There's no way in hell I want to do that. But I'm really enjoying teaching adults, teaching these 21-year-olds from Southeast Asia who are with their whole lives ahead of them, who already speak a very high level of English. It's very, very interesting. And I wish you all the best, April. And Japan has its unique constraints, right? So it's like I'm just that's something I'm rediscovering as well, is that I have to get used to the constraints that I have that I'm saddled with as a foreigner. A lot of those constraints aren't constraints because I'm a foreigner. They're constraints because, for example, Japan. Like for example, the weather has been nice the last couple of days, nice enough to wear shorts and short pants and short sleeves when I go out, and I get stares and comments absolutely everywhere. And that's the kind of thing that in Southern California, nobody would bat an eye. Warm day, cold day, whatever. You just wear what you do, you, as they say, right? These are the kinds of things that I had kind of forgotten when I left Japan, and I'm coming back and going, oh yeah, right. You got to toe the party line. Robert says hello to Japan, Mon Amour. Tim says, yes, the house is like an antique shop. LOL. Far too much stuff. Beautiful. Wow. I would love to see that someday. Tim says, Robert says hello to says goodbye to Elvina. Japan Monomore says hello to Robert and glad to bump into you again. April says, yeah, I have enough kids of my own. I don't need to like other people's kids. Mm, and I don't need to put up with no, I don't want no babysitting. I don't want to do babysitting. And you know what else? The next best thing to the type of teaching that I'm doing right now is teaching older adults who have a high fluency level in English. But even that's different because they're very constrained. If they're Japanese, they're very constrained by being Japanese. These young people, and I'm sorry if I'm going on laboring on it, these young people from these other countries are different. They're like it's like being with college students who speak English fluently and are unconstrained by the Japanese culture, but they're constrained by their own cultural elements, which are interesting to discover. There's lots of new territory there. Tim says, one thing in retirement I do really like is my online course on antique art restoration, which I'm starting to use in painting. In a painting I recently bought. Tim, you are just such an amazing person. You do so many interesting things. Wow. Have you ever heard of the Japanese art of restoring broken? Tim, this is a question for Tim. Broken Japanese or broken pottery. They take the pottery and they restore them like a broken bowl with gold filling, and it kind of the idea is that like an old man or woman with weathered lines of life. The pot, the old pot that was broken gets restored and brought back to life. And they instead of hiding the cracks, they emphasize the cracks with gold. I think it's called kitsugi or something like that. It's a Japanese art. You might enjoy that. April says, I think that means they feel comfortable with you if they're making you feel uncomfortable. Ha ha. The Japanese, that is. Oh, you're good. That's right, April. That you're absolutely right. The Japanese, if they're not making me feel uncomfortable, that means that I'm being held at a greater distance. You're absolutely right. That's a sure sign that you're an insider. You're becoming an insider as much as a foreigner can be an insider in Japan once they start treating you like like one of their friends, right? Good point, April. That's a really interesting and paradoxical observation. Robert says, Tim, I once polished a brushed stainless steel watch I had, made it all shiny and chrome, which matched its reverse dot matrix display. Hmm. Tim says there's something restoring an oil painting from the 18th century that is very fulfilling. It's like touching the past, literally. That must be fascinating, especially if you're able to bring back the image in some way and we can see it better, right? Japan Monomura says, will you start the antique business again, Kurt? Remember that story with the Yakuza boss? Scary. The answer to that question, Japan Monomura, is absolutely. It's something that I was very busy at. Where shortly after I came back to Japan, I started the business, but unfortunately, the tariff situation in the United States has caused the Japan Post to suspend all deliveries, commercial parcel deliveries to the United States. And the United States is three-quarters of my business, so I can't ship it. So this whole bottom shelf there, on behind me, that second shelf, that's my antique shelf. All of those items were in my store, but I had to take off the sales button. I can't sell them because I can't ship them. So hopefully, as soon as if and when America basically squares away this tariff situation. And if and when Japan allows us to ship back to America, I will reopen the business. Absolutely. And yeah, that Yakuza boss story was interesting. In fact, I just went by the Yakuza boss house over the weekend. I was Yoko was driving. We went to have lunch in Shimizu, and as we were driving back, we were parked, and the Yakuza boss house was on the hill, and my sister-in-law was driving. She was looking at it, and I said, "That's the Yakuza house." She's like, "Oh." Biggest house in Japan outside of Tokyo, apparently. April says, we all need to take keeping busy life lessons from Tim. Yeah, definitely. Japan Monomore says, yes, it gives now life to broken pottery to put it together with gold in the cracks. Indeed, indeed, you're talking about that Japanese art of restoring the broken pots. Tim says, I think pottery restoration, which I think you mean, Kurt, is really hard thing to do. Probably a lot harder than cleaning and restoring a painting. Yes, I'm referring to pottery restoration. So imagine something like this vase busting, and then instead of just throwing it away, reassembling it, and then having gold fillings in the line. It's almost like an old yakuza with golden teeth, right? Okay, well, I'm going to sign off for now. If you can't already tell, I certainly can. This is me going back into reflective mode. I feel very different today, and I know why. I know because it's a hard work that I'm making to try and re-establish myself in this new life paradigm of finding ways to change my expectations about the day instead of looking to have a results oriented life, but have an enjoyment oriented life. Enjoyment on things that are important to me, like reading philosophy, like writing poetry in my head, like visualizing things, spending time with my wife, my dogs, but yeah, enjoying time with my guitar. I'm really happy about the job that I have. And I'm also, even in spite of the horror show, I think I'm starting to get a little bit of a management set in my mind about how I'm going to be continue managing the horror. April says, "Have another good day, Kurt. Thank you. Hope to be able to catch you tomorrow." I hope so too. I'm wishing you all the best, April. Japan Mon, I know you've got a lot on your mind as you prepare for big changes in your life. Japan Monomore says you have more energy today. Yeah, I feel it. And Tim says you sound a lot different today, a lot more upbeat, which is great to see. Thank you, Tim. And you're absolutely right. I feel it too. April says self-care is important. It sounds like that's what you're starting to do. I think so. I'm not just letting myself fall into uh, the 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 hole of not knowing what to do with my life, but I'm climbing back out, and I'm going to figure out what to do, and I am figuring out what to do and how to make good use of my time. Have a great day, Tim. Have a great day, everybody. Be safe, but not too safe. And we missed Evelyn today. Evelyn, wishing you all the best. Sorry we didn't see you today. Take care. Bye bye.